Hey guys, it's Spear here. Welcome to another Archetype 101, where I give you a quick overview of TCG archetypes. No strategies, no deck lists, just a quick top level view of what an archetype is trying to do and the core cards within that archetype. I just want to, apologize real quick. I know I didn't put up any videos over the weekend. It was a mishmash of Pokemon took over my life, and when Pokemon wasn't taking over my life, I just wasn't at home due to, several things that were going on during that weekend. So I'll be continuing with the set 8 archetypes going on to the rest of the week. There's only like 2-3 left after this one. So we should be done by around Wednesday, and that'll give you the full view of what to expect for set 8 and all the different archetypes within it. So today specifically we're looking at Blue Green KaioKen Goku, and this is more so of a mini archetype. Oftentimes within sets, you'll see that they try and push a little more support towards different ways of playing without giving them, 10 to 20 different cards to play within this archetype. And this one is very specific to Revive, which is the new blue-green archetype. Real quick, we're going to jump into the lore. And I'll say right away that I'm not going to go over who Goku is specifically, because if that was the case, then that means I'd be going over who Goku was like at least 1 to 2 times every single set, because we always get a new Goku card. But instead I'm going to talk about Kaio-ken specifically and kind of the origins of that. So Kaio-ken first showed up in Dragon Ball Z, and it was invented by King Kai. So when Goku died originally through Raditz hands, he went over to King Kai's planet to train. That's where he learned about the Spirit Bomb and all that. That's also where he learned Kaio-ken. It's extremely heavy on the body and takes a huge toll, and will actually, if you push yourself too much, will destroy you from the inside out. And it takes immense ki control. King Kai himself doesn't actually master the technique. He's only ever been able to pass it on to Goku, and Goku's been the only canonical character to ever master the technique. Now, mind you, it's a technique, not a form. So anyone really, if they had the ki control and time to dedicate to it, could actually learn it. It's similar to UI in that way, where it's not exclusive to Saiyans. It just happens that it takes immense control. It's also said that it's impossible to use alongside Classic Super Saiyan. And that's because Super Saiyan is a very emotional form. It's very wild in how it manages ki. And you can actually see that in the show, how the ki bursts out of their body. And it makes it so using them coherently together is almost impossible without the whole thing failing. And it's actually why Super Saiyan Blue is capable of doing it. Because Super Saiyan Blue is complete mastery over ki. That's why it's more of like a wave around the body, because it's more control and not an emotional based form like classic Super Saiyan is, which is why in the anime he's able to use it alongside Kaio-ken. And finally, Kaio-ken times 20 is the highest multiplier that's ever been obtained by Goku. In one of the movies, I think it's against King Slug, he uses times 100, but because the movies aren't really canonical and I'm just going to ignore that. So as far as the sake of what the anime has done, times 20 is as far as we've seen it go. And then obviously every single time Goku's done it, he's collapsed on the floor because his body just can't take it anymore. So that's the rough 101 on the form. So now let's look at the endgame. What's the deck trying to do? So because it's a small archetype, there's not a ton of cards in the pool to play with. But if I had to point out one endgame card, what you're really trying to do, what's the highlight of the strategy? Well, it'd be something like this one. So it's a 2-drop, has energy exhaust, because it's both blue and green, and it has revival blue and green. So what revival says is that when this card is KO'd, you get to play it from your drop, negating its skill by discarding cards that have the same color. So in this case, Revival Blue-Green, I have to get rid of blue and green cards to be able to bring them back from the drop. Then it says negate it for the turn, so you can't just constantly, stop your card from dying. You will eventually just lose it if they go for it twice and successfully punch through. Note that I believe throwing away one blue-green card, multicolor, is enough to pay for the cost. I'm not so sure. I tried looking up for answers, but I'm fairly certain it's the same way with Arrival, where as long as the specified colors are in the zone that's requested by the skill, then you're good. Permanent, you can't play this card in any area by a skill outside of Revive, so you won't be able to get it back with Healing Pod or something like that. And finally, Activate Battle once per turn for blue and green. The card gets 10k and triple strike. So effectively, when you're trying to close out the game with it, it's a 25k triple striker, which, it's pretty relevant. And it's nice that it's Activate Battle because it means you're not going to have to commit the energy beforehand. So it's up to your opponent to think, well, is he going to use it? Or maybe they just forget that the card has it entirely and then activate Battle, boom, triple strike, go for game. That's really the only kind of finisher. Because it's a mini archetype within the set, the designers expect you to mish and mash from different archetypes to bring it all together, especially since it's as generically based as a revive type deck. And we can see that specifically when we look in the leader. So on his base side, Son Goku has, when he attacks a leader, you draw a card. A bit worse because you have to attack a leader. You can't just, keep the board clean while still drawing cards. But not the worst, because this is the type of deck that does want to be awakened. Once per turn, if one of your battle cards activates Revive, you get to draw a card. So now you're getting cards back. So the cost could be free, or at least could only cost you 1 when you're trying to revive your cards and keep them on the board. And you're going to want to keep them on board. So when your life is at 4 or less, you awaken by drawing a card and untapping an energy, and then you flip them over. At which point we have kaio-ken Son Goku turning the tide. So now when he attacks, draw a card. Cool, we don't have to attack the leader anymore. Once per turn, when you activate Revive, you draw 2 cards. So depending on your pitch, you could actually plus now on your revives. And then activate main, and it's 1 per turn. You get to choose one of your rested multicolored battle cards, blue, green. And for as long as that card is rested on in the battle area, your opponent can't attack leader cards. So effectively, it turns any of your multicolored cards into deadly defenders, where your opponent's going to have to get rid of it before it can actually strike out your leader. And it's really relevant because they have Revive. So now not only are you going to be able to draw into more things that help you defend your deadly defenders on board, but you're going to be able to bring them back if they do punch through. So it means that your opponent's going to have to put a lot of resources into trying to get rid of them. The card pool isn't huge, but there's a few that make it work out that when you're trying to pull this off in game, you're going to be able to get it through. So that's like the end game card that we see here, or a couple of revival-based cards that are within the archetype. Specifically, we have Son Gohan and Piccolo, where they have Barrier, which makes it really hard for your opponent to kill, and they have Revive Blue-Green. So toss a blue-green, they're going to be able to come back. And when they attack, they make your opponent send a card to their drop. So that's great. It's a card that wants to be in rest mode for your leader's proc. At the same time, while you're doing so, you get to make your opponent's hands worse. And you could even be plussing off their revive. Now, a weird ruling is that, because the card goes to drop and then comes back, I don't think the leader considers it the same card. So once it leaves the first time around, it probably means that the skill doesn't pull over and then your opponent's going to be able to hit into your leader. What it does mean, though, is that you're going to consistently be able to make sure that you do end up having a multicolored card there to be able to proc him off every turn. It's something I would double check. I think that's how it works, but I'm not entirely sure. And then really, those cards are kind of like the only real big pieces of this mini archetype. There's like a searcher, I believe he's a 1-drop Gohan that searches like a Piccolo or a Goku. But for the most part, those are really the only in archetype cards. Now, typically within these videos, I try to make sure that I look only within the set to give you a good view of what an archetype is trying to do. But for the cases of things like this where it's mini archetypes and the expectation set by the designers is that you'll look elsewhere to really fill in the pieces, that's when I'm going to try and branch out to see other cards, and mostly just mainstays. Like if you're running this strategy, there's a good chance you are running these cards because there's no reason not to. So one of them is the Healing Pod from way few sets back, Clash of Fate, I believe. So it's a field card, comes out on turn 1. And it says once per turn, when you play a green battle card from your drop area, so Revive, you draw a card. So right away, that guarantees that you are going to start getting cards back whenever you revive your cards once per turn. And if you really have to, for 4 energy, you get to place that card in your you get to place the field card in your drop area, and then you go fetch a 4-drop or less from your drop area and play it. So that's great recursion. It means that your drop is a pool of resources you can pull from if you need to in the game, and is consistently going to get you card drop. In that same vein, Masterful Technique Whis, which is in the same set, but like kind of in a different archetype because they're not completely from the same saga. But when you play this card, you get to choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with 2 or less, KO it, and then once per turn, if you have a blue-green multicolor energy, when you play a green card other than this card from your drop, you get to draw a card. So essentially another healing pod, but on a body. And these are the kind of cards that are going to make sure that you're going to constantly be able to refill your hand, keep it up so that you can defend not only your deadly defenders, but your leader while you try and punch in. And then generally from there, the deck is really put in what you feel will help you close out the game or survive longer. I see a lot of people play a lot of counterplays. A lot of people are playing the Vegeta the Cruel, which is, you know, a great card. If you're going to be multicolor and in green anyways, you should probably play for Vegeta the Cruel regardless. It's a fantastic card. Blows up your opponent's battle cards, makes them warp a card in hand. Really strong. And that's really where the archetype shines. It's kind of the malleability of being able to play what you think will work within that strategy, and you can mold it to your play style more so than other archetypes like Baby or Android 21, where like over half the deck is already dictated by these in-archetype cards. So that's been the quick overview of Blue Green KaioKen. The 101 is pretty short because, like I said, it is a mini archetype, but it's flexible and it lets you play the way that you want to play. So that's been it for KaioKen Son Goku. We'll be closing out the week. So tomorrow and Wednesday probably is when we'll be finishing off all of the archetypes from set 8. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. What are your deck lists going to look like? What do you guys think? I'm not so hot on this, but it looks like fun. So let me know in the comments down below. If you want to see more from me and more of these 101s, don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao!